The AAC Report is brought to you by Blahut of Realty One Group. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, call Blahut anytime at 407-748-0484. Welcome to the AAC Report only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening. Coming up, we continue our team-by-team reports in men's basketball. Will Turner from Bulls247.com joins us to talk about South Florida. And Ryan Wallen from OwlsDaily.com will stop by to talk about Temple basketball. And, of course, this season is certainly not quite as predictable as one would think. As we check the standings as we record this podcast at 6:15 p.m. on Wednesday evening, Houston and Tulsa atop the conference standings at 4-1. Tulsa being the surprise there. Memphis just a shade back at 3-1, and Wichita State, having lost 2 in a row, has dropped to 4-2, and Cincinnati also at 4-2. So it is definitely an interesting battle going on for the top spot in the conference, as we are just about a third of the way through the proceedings so far. In the latest rankings, Memphis comes in at number 20 in both the coaches and the AP poll. Wichita State is number 22 in the coaches poll, and Houston has landed at number 24 in the coaches poll and at number 25 in the AP poll. We continue our look around the American for men's basketball. Joining us now on the program is Will Turner from Bulls247.com to talk about South Florida and the Bulls season so far. Will, thank you for being here.
I appreciate you having me on.
Well, let's go back to the basically the end of last season, the beginning of this season. The Bulls finished off with a big finish, winning the CBI, strong finish to the season. And going into this season, hopes were high, but Alexis Yedna goes down with a knee injury. Can you talk about the impact of that?
Yeah, so Alexis obviously was, the conference freshman of the year a year ago, was a really, very influential player, very important in getting USF to the CBI and having them win the whole thing. Very one of the most underrated players in the country. He made he made the Karl Malone watch list this year, so he's just an all-around fantastic player, and proved that last year, and was so instrumental in getting getting USF to postseason play. And getting them that championship. So when he went down, it really was a blow. He was held out of action for that preseason game against St. Leo University, and then in practice the injury happened that next week, right before they played Arkansas Pine Bluff at home. I want to say it was the Friday before. And Brian Gregory was extremely shaken up by the injury. The entire team was extremely shaken up by the injury, and they weren't really sure just how things were going to pan out. And then you get a couple of games into it, and news came out when USF played IUPUI in the Cayman Island Classic campus site in Tampa, that Mayan Kerr, a 6'9" forward from Bradenton, he was an LSU transfer. He was going to be he was no longer with the team anymore due to, not entirely sure what it was due to, but I want to say it was more of a violation of team rules than anything else. Not sure, 100%. Now, you add on those two pieces, USF is without two big men. And they went from being one of the tallest teams in the American to one of the smallest teams in the American. And that's really forced them to play through their guards a lot more than they wanted to. USF runs a 4-guard set at least 85% of the time. And that really hurts against some of the taller teams in the conference, against East Carolina, against the Florida State, which is non-conference, against a Utah State. In those bigger games that USF was hoping to have a shot in, their inability to have length down low really hurt. So losing Alexis Yetna and Mayan Kerr really was a blow before the season, and it's hard to recover.
But you did say they run the four-guard offense, and they've got some talented players on this squad. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so David Collins and LaQuincy Rito obviously are the two names to know, though they didn't have their best night against UCF on Saturday night. UCF did a great job, keeping them locked down. But David Collins and LaQuincy Rito are the guys that USF has really built their program around. David Collins was one of Brian Gregory's first recruits when he came in 2017, 2018, and has been the instrumental, guy that USF has tried to do everything around. He's leading the team in scoring with 14.7 a game. One of the top 10 scorers in the conference. He's kind of an old school basketball player in the sense that he grinds and grinds and grinds, and he always wants to get into the paint. He takes a good bit of outside shots, but he's only got 52 attempts from outside on the year, which is less than a lot of the other guys, other guards that they play on a regular basis. But he's really always looking to get into the paint. He draws fouls really well. Drew 11 against Memphis last Sunday. So he's really good at getting into the paint, creating havoc. Now, Rito, he was the American Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year last year, broke the single-season steals record at USF, and he's not on that same pace, but he still is one of the top guards in the country. I want to say he was 7th going into the UCF game in steals per game with 2.7 per game. He's excellent at doing that. However, this year his numbers have regressed nearly across the board. His field goal shooting is down, his scoring is down, 3-point percentage is down, free throw percentage down. Everything is down. The steals are about the same, but everything else is kind of down, and I'm not sure if that's because of the Yetna injury and how that, might have had an effect across the table, but he hasn't performed as well offensively as he did last year. Justin Brown and Zach Dawson are the other two guards that have been, pleasant surprises. Zach Dawson is a former 4-star recruit from Oklahoma State, and he knocks down a lot of threes. He's been one of the most consistent three-point shooters that this team has had. He's shooting 37% from deep, almost 38%, and he's really been relied upon. Scored 15 against Memphis. Didn't do that well against UCF the other night, but he's really excellent at creating space for his own shots. He's just a natural-born scorer. And what was tough about him to start the season was he hadn't played in live game action for close to 2 years because he had a redshirt year at Oklahoma State, and then when he transferred to USF, of course, you have the year where you have to sit out. So Zach Dawson, almost being out for 2 years has kind of adjusted nicely. And, Justin Brown has, been a really good three-point option. Struggling a little bit this year. I want to say his three-point field goal percentage is down. But he's a viable option, a streaky shooter, but when he's on, he's pretty deadly.
So let's talk about as far, the team is 8-10, 1-4 in conference right now. When they are playing well and able to register victories, what are they doing well? And conversely, on the other side, besides having the size challenges, where are their other weaknesses?
Well, the strength is going to be the defense. USF coming into the UCF game, they were the second lowest, or they gave up the second fewest amount of points. They've held, after the UCF game, after holding UCF to 55, they have now held, I want to say, 16 opponents. 16 of their 18 opponents they've held under their season scoring average. That includes a team like Florida State, UConn, they kept Memphis at 68. They kept Utah State at 76. They kept a lot of teams under their season scoring average, which is strange for a team that is strange for a team that is 8-10. You'd think a team that's 8-10 that has really good, or you think a team that has as good a defense as that wouldn't be 8-10. But the problem that USF is having right now is because of the size problems down low, their offense has been extremely inconsistent. It's really a Jekyll and Hyde type situation. One game their offense will look fantastic, and then the next they can't score the basketball at all. Going against East Carolina and Greenville, perfect example. On January 7th, they held East Carolina scoreless for almost 8 minutes, and they couldn't. The score was sitting at 55-54. And USF had a ton of opportunities to take the lead, or at least even, get the game tied at 55-all, but they could not make the shot. They could not make the winning play in a multitude of their games. I mean, they were up in overtime against Utah State on a neutral site. They were up by 10 against Florida State with 6 minutes to go. They were up by 14 with 13 minutes to go against Memphis in the second half. They had leads in a good bit of these games. They had a 6-point lead against UCF at one point. They can't close out games, and it's because their offense goes cold in the second half. Their three-point shooting can get a little shaky, but because they don't have a consistent down-low option, that contributes to a lot of their weaknesses on the offensive side.
Well, as you mentioned, they fought in Memphis very close, a tough loss to UCF, and you're about to see Wichita State, Houston, an improved Tulane team. Who do you like in the American Conference? This conference, from top to bottom, seems to be stronger than it's ever been.
Yeah, it really is. I was talking to the East Carolina publisher on the 24/7 network, and we both kind of agreed that the American could end up beating itself when it comes tournament time, because there's a ton of parity in this league right now. I mean, if you look at it, there's nobody. It doesn't look like anybody really wants to win. Wichita State, coming into the week looked really, really good, and then they lose. They lose to Temple after giving up a big lead at halftime, and then they lose against Houston at the Roundhouse, and Houston exposes them at the Roundhouse. And then you've got a 4-1 Tulsa team, a 4-1 in conference Tulsa team. They win by 30 against one team, and they lose by 30, and then they beat Houston by 2. So you don't know what Tulsa looks like. Memphis is showing some inconsistencies at times because of the amount of freshmen that they have. Cincinnati's returned to form, and then it really 1 through 12, any team could still make a run. I think you really just have to default right now to the teams that have proven that they can win in this league. A Houston, a Cincinnati. Memphis is going to be up there just because of their talent. I think Wichita State can return to form this week. But it is, you're absolutely right. It is wide open. This conference is definitely for the tanking right now.
And let me ask you quickly about Coach Brian Gregory. He, of course, took over for the 2017 season. He had some nice success at Dayton, not so much at Georgia Tech. Has been an assistant under Tom Izzo a couple of times, and he certainly does bring a great work ethic.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the great things about what Brian Gregory does as a head coach is he calls them he brings in his players that he recruits, and he wants to recruit their kind of guys. And they want to recruit guys that are going to be tough, that are going to have an old school mentality, that want to play defense, obviously, that want to win by playing defense, and guys that are high character, high quality, like everyone wants to bring in their program. But Brian Gregory has done a fantastic job of finding guys like that that carry on that spirit, whether it be through transfers or whether it be through traditional recruiting. But he's done a great job bringing in guys that understand the system and understand what it takes to win. And he's because of what he's gone through. You mentioned at Dayton and at Georgia Tech, because he's been at other programs and he's had to build at other programs. He brings in so much wisdom to be able to build a program that struggled over the majority of the last decade under Orlando Antigua. And Brian Gregory, although they're 8-10 this year, they are probably one player away from being, a 12-13 win team right now, especially with the close games that they've had. But definitely, still looking like the guy that is going to take this program into the next phase of program development.
All right, well, we'll give folks out there all the avenues that they can get coverage of the South Florida Bulls with you and Bulls247.com.
Yeah, so my personal Twitter account is at TBTurner813. It's kind of more of a mashup. I cover high school football and high school softball in Tampa Bay, so that's a good little mashup of that with the USF coverage. Bulls247 is the 24/7 sports Twitter handle for the USF team site. And one of the great things that I do is I take a weekly look around the American, just like you do, and put it in written form around the major sports, so football and men's basketball. It goes usually on Mondays or Tuesdays around the conference. Just kind of a nice way to wrap everything up and take a whole scale look. But yeah, that's kind of the ways to follow.
All right, Will, we appreciate it. Will Turner from Bulls247.com. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Coming up next, we talk to Ryan Wallen about the Temple Owls when the AAC Report continues in just a moment. Are you tired of the endless money pit of paying rent? Do you have a home you need to sell for top dollar? Talk to the Hometown Advantage award-winning real estate professional and fellow UCF Knight, Blake Blahut of Realty One Group. Blake has proven to produce results and a smooth process for his clients all across Central Florida. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, talk to Blake Blahut. Visit him at his website, Blake'sOrlandoHomes.com, or contact him anytime at 407-748-0484. Again, Blake'sOrlandoHomes.com and 407-748-0484. Get the hometown advantage by working with Blake. And our next stop as we continue our coverage of men's basketball around the American is to take a look at Temple. Joining us to do that now is Ryan Wallen of OwlsDaily.com. Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Ryan, let's kind of start from the beginning with, first, you got a new coach this season, which doesn't happen very often with Temple. Temple basketball has been under great stewardship for a long time by John Chaney, then Fran Dunphy, and now Aaron McKee, who was an assistant under Dunphy, takes over. Of course, was a Temple player, beloved in Philadelphia basketball circles for his days with the 76ers. How would you rate his rookie head coaching campaign so far?
I think if you were to rate it based off the first half of the season thus far, I think the first half of this first half, you would have had to give Aaron McKee an A. I mean, considering that he played Maryland, who was a top 5 team at the time, to the brink. They only ended up losing that game by 7, and that really was because of free throws added on at the end that margin of victory for them was so good. But at the time, Temple was really playing well. Their defense looked like it was a top 10 defense in the country, the way they were getting after it, getting after opposing teams, forcing them to take bad shots and really to force them to beat them shooting the ball. But then ever since conference play is open, it's kind of gone downhill for Temple. they're really struggling right now to not only find some offense, they lack an offensive identity, and the defense has kind of taken a step back. And, Aaron McKee says, he really doesn't know what's going on with that. And I think that's part of, learning the ropes as a head coach too. He's got to feel out his team, and I think he's realizing that maybe his team has some areas of weakness, which they'll have to address moving forward. Obviously, I don't think many people expected Temple to be top tier AAC team this year, but he is somebody that is learning the ropes, as well as the players having to adjust to a new head coach, especially after Ryan Dunphy had been there as long as he had. So if I had to give him an overall grade right now, I'd give him probably a B-, because I think he's doing a very good job as far as his coaching style. It's just the team is not performing well at the moment.
And how much could you attribute the recent struggles, if you will, to conference play? The American certainly has no nights off.
And I think you hit the nail right on the head with that one. Tulsa right now is leading the league, and I don't think anybody projected them to be as good as they are. And Temple saw that firsthand when they went down to Tulsa, and they got out down there in the Reynolds Center. They lost by 26, and then followed that up with a loss, which, be it a close loss, that was a game where Temple, they saw some confidence come back, but then they go out and lose to Tulane, who, again, under Ron Hunter, is much improved this year. To go winless in conference last year now to being a team that looks like they could potentially be in the middle of the pack there, and they're giving some teams games on given nights. I think you hit the nail on the head that, the American is a very tough conference. It's going to be a 3-4 bid league again this year in the NCAA tournament. But I also think that Temple should be in that mid to upper tier of the American, but I don't think it's necessarily the league that is what's testing them. It's just their own struggles, and they're just getting inside their own heads kind of right now, and they're just struggling all around.
Well, let's talk about the team on the floor, and certainly they are fueled by terrific players in Quentin Rose and Napier Louis. Talk a little bit about when they're on, what are they doing well, and in addition, when they struggle, what are those things that they have to improve on?
Well, I think starting with Quentin Rose, he this year has done a better job of being an all-around player. He typically has been known to be a scorer for Temple, and that still is his primary role. He's the senior leader. He's the scorer. But if you look at his numbers, he's been doing much better at rebounding the ball this year. He's been much better decision-making and dishing the ball, getting his teammates some open looks. Some of those looks aren't falling as much, and he's struggling mightily from three-point range, and that's been something dating back to last season that he struggled with early on. He just can't get the three ball to go in. He is still good at very good at creating space and getting into the lane, penetrating a defense, and finishing inside the three-point arc. But that's been his struggle thus far. And then when you look at Nate's one of the best rebounding guards in the nation, as well as being one of the best on-ball defenders in the nation. That's something that, Fran Dunphy praised him for. That's something that Aaron McKee has praised him for. And, he's lived up to that hype this year that he is one of the best defenders in the conference, if not the best defender. But, again, he has been someone, again, that's struggling to score the ball. He has struggled from three-point range. And he hasn't looked himself much since about that Maryland game. He's not driving to the hole as much. I think we did see that against Wichita, where he did start trying to penetrate more again, and I think that was part of the reason why Temple was able to upset Wichita State the other night, was because he was penetrating and Temple wasn't settling for the three-point jumpers like they had been in the past. So that's where I see the struggles at right now. They're settling for outside shots rather than driving to the hole and looking for better looks inside.
And who do you think are the X factors on this team?
I think Jake Forrester, the transfer from Indiana, has been someone who's really helped the team, and that's someone who Aaron McKee pointed to after last night lost to SMU as being someone that they're going to try and build the offense around right now, considering that the offense is struggling so much. He came in right away, got eligibility. After a couple games into the season, the NCAA granted his waiver, and he's came in and averaged 8.7 points per game. He's been someone that has been pretty consistent in scoring inside the arc and down in the paint, and he's just some guy that, likes to bang body and rebound, and he might not be the tallest guy out there. He's listed at 6'10", 6'11", I believe, but probably a good 6'9". So I would say he's someone that has made an impact for the team. Hopefully that continues. If Aaron McKee's planning on building the offense around him, he said they're going to keep dishing it to him inside. So we'll see if that works out the second half of the season and the second half of conference play, because they're struggling to find something now. And through Jake, I think they may be able to get something going. And another X factor, Devondre Perry. He's been really good off the bench. He's a guy who's very underappreciated, and up until this year had struggled finding his own shot as well. But this year, all of a sudden, he's shooting 43.5% from three-point range, and he's averaging nearly 7 points a game this year. So he's getting them some added momentum when they needed it. Unfortunately, the other night against SMU, he injured his toe, and we don't know the severity of that yet, so he could be out an extended period of time. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think he's been another guy that maybe should be inserted into the starting lineup at some point if he can get back on the court healthy, considering he has been this added momentum swinger when he is inserted, especially when they have had some starters who have continued to struggle.
Well, you mentioned, we talked about the American a little bit, and you guys have definitely seen Houston so far. You got the upset win over Wichita State. You got Cincinnati coming up, Memphis down the road. Who do you like to win this conference?
If I had to put my money on it right now, I would say Memphis is going to come back in the second half here, and they're going to put themselves in a good position just because of the talent they have. Even without James Wiseman, with his situation, him declaring for the draft early after being suspended by the NCAA. I still think Memphis is the best team talent-wise on paper, in this conference. Wichita has impressed me as far as how young they are and how they played up to until this point, but now they've lost back-to-back games, and you have to wonder if maybe they're getting in their own heads a little bit. I'll be looking forward to seeing how they bounce back this week. And Houston will be right up there in the end of it just because of Kelvin Sampson and the experience he has with those guys, and they are probably one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and I think they're doing that pretty much with no guys over 7 foot tall or even over 6'10", so they're definitely a dangerous team if they get going. But if I had to put it right now, I'd put Memphis as my top choice. My second choice would be Houston.
And besides playing in the American, Temple certainly is part of a great tradition in college basketball. It's Philadelphia's Big Five with LaSalle, Penn, St. Joe's, and Villanova. Can you talk about how special that tradition is?
Well, of course, and those games are the games that the players really get hyped for. They get hyped for every game, but those are the ones that have a little extra meaning because they're the ones that are bragging rights in the city, and they still play for the Big Five title every year, and I know Temple hasn't won one in quite some time, so they're looking to do that right now. And they're in good position considering they're 2-0 right now in Big Five play, but they still have Penn this upcoming Saturday, and then they have to take on Villanova at home on February 16th, and that's going to be a top 10 game hopefully for Temple. That's a game obviously that could get Temple back into consideration for the NCAA tournament if they can start stringing some wins together. But that's special because those are the games that fans really show up for. Those are the ones that building is full, it's loud, and the players thrive off of that.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those things. If you're a basketball fan and you like a lot of the great traditions and rivalry kind of stuff, that certainly is one that's is well up near the top of the list. And of course, playing in a venue like the Palestra too.
Of course, and that's going to be the venue for Saturday's game against Penn. I'm looking forward to going out myself. That's one of the last few great arenas in college basketball, just because of the history that's taken place in that building, and just all the types of games, especially in a basketball-rich city like Philadelphia.
Well, Ryan, tell the folks where they can find your coverage of Temple Owls all the time.
Awesome. So you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Wallen 247. That's RyanWallen 247, or you can go to owlsdaily.com.
All right, that sounds terrific. Ryan Wallen, thanks again so much for being here. owlsdaily.com and talking about Temple basketball. We appreciate your time this evening.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Time now to look at our honors. Our player of the week, Brandon Rochelle, the junior guard of Tulsa, averaged 18.5 points, 7 rebounds, and a pair of road victories for Tulsa last week, 21-7 at East Carolina on Wednesday, before a 16.7 rebound, 3 assist score on the stat sheet at Tulane on Saturday. The freshman of the week, DJ Jeffries of Memphis, he led the Tigers with 18 points in a 60-49 win over Cincinnati last Thursday, hitting 4 3-pointers while grabbing 4 rebounds as well in that victory. In women's hoops, the player of the week, Megan Walker, junior forward of UConn, led them to 3 conference wins in 6 days, averaging 19 points, 7.3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2.7 steals per game. And the freshman of the week, Anna Macuret of UConn, she also in that 3-0 week had some outstanding numbers. A career outing against Tulsa on Sunday, 21 points on 8 of 12 shooting with 4 threes. Also chipped in 6 rebounds and 5 assists in a big 92-34 win in that one. In the standings, of course, UConn is at number 3 in the AP poll and number 5 in the USA Today poll, as they are now staked out to a 7-0 record at the time of this recording on Wednesday, the 22nd. Heading into Wednesday evening play, the Huskies at 7-0, Tulane right behind them at 5-0, and Temple at 4-2, Wichita State at 3-2. Turning now to track and field, the men's track athlete of the week, Deo Akindele. He raced to victory in the 60-meter hurdles. The Houston Cougar watched a time of 7.78 at the Leonard Hilton Memorial Invitational, and it was the fastest in the American in that event thus far this season. It ranks 11th nationally. The men's field athlete of the week, Mason Buckmaster of Wichita State, finishes the runner-up in the high jump at the KU-KSU Wichita State Triangular by clearing 7 feet 0.5 inches. Easy for me to read those jumbled up numbers there. Buckmaster ranks 2nd in the conference, 21st in the NCAA in the high jump this season. The women's track athlete of the week is Chelsea Francis at SMU, picked up a win in the 60-meter dash, competing at the Leonard Hilton Memorial, running a top prelim time of 7.30 and adding a win as a member of the 4x4 meter relay squad. And the women's field athlete of the week, Sydney Sapp of Wichita State, secured the top finish in the high jump at the KU-KSU WSU Triangular, and she cleared in the high jump, she cleared 5 feet 8 3/4 inches for that event win. By the way, we missed the honors last week. They went to, on the track side and the men's track athlete of the week, I should say, was Aaron Benenfield. The field athlete of the week was Travis Snyder from UConn. Benenfield, of course, was from Cincinnati. The women's track athlete of the week, Sheehan Hyde of UCF, and the field athlete of the week from a week ago was Arati Mitsilena, senior from Cincinnati. In tennis, the men's tennis player of the week, Cody Pearson from Tulsa, went 2-0 in singles play and won his only doubles match of the week to help the Golden Hurricane to a pair of wins against Mercer to start the 2020 spring season. And the AAC women's tennis player of the week, Martina Okolova of Tulsa, helped lead them to a 5-0 start in the 2020 spring season. going a combined 9-0 in singles and doubles play from the number 1 positions. And that's going to do it for this week's AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.